in a series of debates.
Good evening everyone, welcome to Nottingham Trent University.
Colleagues, welcome to the second in a series of debates hosted by UCU on the subject of academic freedom.
I'm going to introduce both speakers just before each one speaks, and they have 10 minutes each on the subject of academic freedom.
To my left is Bill Rammell MP, who's the Minister of State for Education and Lifelong Learning. We're going to kick off with, you go first, Bill?
Bill is a critical friend of UCU. We don't always agree, but he's always ready to engage with us.
It's a genuine pleasure. Please come in. Anyone else out there? And for me, the context for this debate is the work certainly that I've been doing over the last 3 years following the London bombings, where I've held a series of meetings up and down the country with groups of Muslim students and academics, very much with a threefold purpose: to firstly genuinely listen to views that are being put forward.
Secondly, where there are grievances, to try to respond to those. But thirdly, through that process, to try and isolate and challenge what I think are a very, very small minority of people who actually advocate violent extremism.
I want to add my personal welcome to the Minister tonight, because this is, it seems to me, a crucial debate, and one not exclusively of concern to universities.
I was sorry that your colleague John Denham had to withdraw last week from the debate at Southampton. I gather he had to vote in the House. I think it was the issue about 42 days detention without charge. I apologise if you detect a hint of irony there.
It seems that everyone involved in further and higher education agrees that academic freedom is a good thing, vital for the well-functioning of our institutions and the staff who work in them, and to be defended with all the determination that can be mustered.
What is academic freedom in any way? Defined usually as the unrestricted liberty to question, to test, received wisdom, and to put forward controversial and unpopular opinions, whether they be offensive or not.
I'll put it loosely, if you like, but HE and FE staff have the right to freedom of thought, conscience, religion, opinion, expression, association and assembly. They have the right to carry out research without commercial or political interference, to engage in scholarly activity both within their own institutions and in broader society, to disseminate results and publish, and have the right to comment on the internal running of their own institution without fear or favour.
The key element within higher education is using the shared values that govern intellectual inquiry to challenge and expose what I think is the flawed thinking of that minority that advocates violent extremism.
I'll share an anecdote with you about the first debate that took place in Brighton, where you were there, Linda, where the first question, and I do not tell a lie.
I had expected not to agree with the Minister, but I hadn't expected such a conditional defence of freedom of speech from Tom.
And my paraphrase here was, well, we expected Bill to be a bastard, but we didn't expect the other UCU speaker to be a bastard as well. So you've got a tough challenge.
We become the inhabitants of Benton's panopticon. That is what happens to us, and that is the most severe and insidious danger to academic freedom that is being proposed.
Within academic freedom, we have, I think, one of the most powerful means at our disposal to refute violent extremist views and promote a cohesive community.
I know he agrees with me that groups like Hizb ut-Tahrir and the BNP have pernicious and appalling views that he would condemn, so we don't need to concern ourselves with the idea that the government is somehow interested in defending those views. What we can do is concentrate on the idea that the government should defend the right to express lawful views.
But freedom of speech is not, in my view, an absolute. If you look, for example, at Article 10 of the European Convention on Human Rights, it makes very clear that freedom of speech carries with it duties and responsibilities. And if what you say as an individual or as a group of individuals affects the freedom, safety and security of others, then that right cannot be absolute.
What is lost by the infringement of academic freedom has to be measured against what might be gained. And in this, I think the Minister is also right. And actually, that's why he is categorically, in my view, and in the view, contrary to what he thinks, of the UCU, wrong in his opposition to no platform.
Specifically, we want to deny a platform for several groups whose views we find incompatible with our values. It is shameful that the law seeks to deny us that right. After all, the BNP wouldn't give a platform to unite against fascism, and we wouldn't expect them to, let alone pass a law obliging them to do so.
Certainly, if organisations are engaged in activities where it is very clear that their intent is to imperil the safety of individuals or groups of students, then clearly there's a very wide range of legal powers available to student unions, to universities, in cooperation with the police to deal with those circumstances.
I mean, I think the Minister's just given a pretty good case for no platform policy.
I don't think any of us here would argue that we shouldn't be alert to the threat of terrorism. It's something that's around us, it's a statement of fact. Where I differ is really in limiting our definition of violent extremism primarily to those holding Islamic or Muslim beliefs. I believe that if we follow your guidance to the letter, we really would likely fall foul of the Race Relations Amendment Act and the general duty to promote equality of opportunity and good relations between people of different racial groups, is the language.
Institutions have a responsibility to protect all their students and staff from those who seek to exploit the freedom that higher education provides in order to promote violence, incite hatred, intimidate or bully others. Violent extremism, in other words, would itself constitute a threat to academic freedom in obstructing students and academics from pursuing their study, research and teaching in peace. Now, frankly, that seems to me a somewhat contrived way to support the document's fundamental aim of addressing a perceived threat to public safety.
We don't, as a government, just put out guidance and don't listen to what anybody is saying to us. I actually, and I've said this many times, and I think it's very much true, this is the most difficult challenge, the most difficult policy and political challenge that we are facing anywhere within the country at the moment. And therefore, we have thought about it, we constantly think about it and respond to what people say, including those people who criticise where we're coming from.
I quote the document, any form of extremist activity leading to or possibly promoting violence. I have no idea what to make of this. This is not narrowed down to those who might bomb buses, those who are found to be storing gelignite, or to shoot their opponents. In terms of the way that this document is specified, it could apply to anybody. I suspect, under some circumstances, perhaps not under this government, it almost certainly would apply to me.
We've developed our thinking in terms of the language we use and the actions that we put forward, and that is why this year we revised the guidance to universities, giving it a much stronger focus on the shared values that exist within higher education and seeing academic freedom as a means of isolating violent extremism. And I think that altered approach has been welcomed.
High on the list of developments that threaten academic freedom must be the insistent move towards making more and more decisions about academic activity conform to some commercial model. Students buy their education through their direct contribution to their tuition costs, with, despite the arguments over this, the likelihood of that affecting the decisions of a proportion of potential students as to whether they will seek to embark on a course of higher education and their choice of course if they do so.